Yay!
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. Dr. Saunders was able to make it from the car with his brothers. Wait, was it brothers?
Well,
Just
my
one?
brother and his two kids, so my two nephews
Okay.
too.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you're all now part of the family, and they're all part of our family. So welcome. We're excited to chat today. First of all, I want to just remind you that Dr. Saunders, while he is a doctor and he is wonderful, he is not your wonderful doctor. And so we just want to make sure that you talk through some of these things with your healthcare provider before you implement any of the suggestions or recommendations that we may make here today. But this is going to be well, I shouldn't say it's going to be a pretty tame topic because it never stays real tame. But we're going to be talking about the power of fiber. If you've been hanging around this place for a while, this isn't the first time we've talked about it. We actually probably haven't talked about fiber in a while. It comes up a little bit in our conversations, talking about, diabetes reversal or heart health. Um, but I'm excited to really dig into this a little bit more. In fact, there was a Home Cures That Work article that Dr. Saunders actually wrote talking about fiber and the importance of protecting your gut. And so I want to just let Dr. Saunders kind of get us started and maybe talk to us about what is fiber.
Okay, so fiber is it's clear plastic that they put light through so that you can have faster internet. It's the best way to get internet. Oh, I'm sorry.
My
Wrong
favorite
kind,
flavor.
wrong kind of fiber. So if you have fiber optic cable for internet, you're lucky. But I don't have that. So I have Starlink, and that's okay. But the fiber we're talking about today is the kind of fiber you eat, and it is so important for you to have fiber in your diet because fiber is stuff that you can't digest, that you can't get any nutrition from. If you were to go eat grass like an ox or a cow or a horse, you wouldn't get any nutrition from it because all that cellulose the grass is made of sugar. But the sugar can't be digested. You don't have the enzymes to digest it. But you know what? Neither do the cows. They get certain bacteria growing in their stomachs. They have several stomachs, depends on how you count them. And and in that process, the bacteria make enzymes that will actually break down cellulose into glucose molecules. And you know what glucose is? Sugar. So they're taking essentially wood fibers, grass fibers, and all of that, and making it into sugar. And then they use that sugar for everything else. Like we use sugar to make all of the energy and the stuff in our bodies. They use sugar also, and they can make sugar into fat. And so then they get fat, and then we eat them, the meat, and don't think about that comes from fiber. It's fiber that we can't digest. So a long time ago, about 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago, um, some astronauts went to the moon. And there was this idea at the time that they thought that they could put all of the nutrients that you needed into a small pill, and you could just take a pill every day, like the astronauts. You could, fly through space and you just take your daily pill because it has all the nutrients you need in it, and you don't need any of that bulk, none of that fiber. Take it all out, just condense it all down. Um, Juice everything, and then take all the water out, and all you have is this little bit left over, and that's all you need because you got all the nutrients in there. Well, it turns out that that fiber is really important, and you need the fiber too. So the bulk that's in your food is important. In fact, just as important, or no, not more important, but just as important, all the vitamins and minerals in there. Why? Well, Because we don't digest it, but the bacteria in our colons do digest it. And they break it down and they make certain things out of it that we need. And nobody knew that we needed these things. But now we know, oh my gosh, if you're not getting enough fiber in your diet, then you get inflammation. Well, why do you get inflammation? Well, because your bacteria don't have any food to make short chain fatty acids, like butyrate, that is very important for decreasing inflammation, both in the colon, locally, and generally in the body. So the fiber also, the bacteria make it into other things, vitamins. You know, there is no source of vitamin B12 in the world except bacteria. Bacteria, the only ones. No animal makes it. No plant makes it. If you're gonna get, vitamin B12, it is from the colons of the bacteria growing inside animals. So human beings make vitamin B12 in our colons. The problem is we can't absorb it from our colons. And so it goes out in the poop and in the toilet, and it's all lost and gone. And it used to be, vegans used to get vitamin B12 because the but wherever they were growing the food, they would put dung on the around the food, and they would grow their food in dung. Well, guess what dung has? Oh, vitamin B12. So you end up getting vitamin B12 because the food is grown in dung. Well, now fertilizers are used that don't include dung, so they don't have vitamin B12. It's chemical fertilizers for everything. And so vegans have a very hard time getting vitamin B12, except from a source, a bacterial source. So a lot of times, like a vitamin pill, they'll grow it in a culture medium with the bacteria, and that's how they get the vitamin B12 that way. So the fiber in our diets is really important for decreasing inflammation, for keeping our colons healthy, for preventing things like diverticulosis, diverticulitis, hemorrhoids, um, uh, irritable bowel syndrome, colitis, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. These are all things that are related to a lack of fiber in the diet. So why don't we get enough fiber? Well, whenever food is processed, what's removed? The fiber. So if you get white flour versus whole wheat flour, what's the difference? Well, they've removed all the fiber from it. There's no bran, which is fiber, and germ, which is fiber. So they take the fiber out and they leave just the really soft, nice, starchy stuff. Well, that's really nice and all well and good. The problem is most of that is digested, and the parts that aren't digested aren't fiber. They can't be broken down by your bacteria, or they're broken down by different bacteria, actually. And you end up with constipation because things don't move through very well because you don't have enough fiber. So that's why fiber is really important. It really does protect not just the colon, but your whole body from inflammation.
I love it. This is so good. Feel free to post your questions in the Q&A if you have some of those that maybe have come up. I just want to oh, good, Cheryl, you did share that article already. Awesome. So let us know what questions you have about the things that Dr. Saunders is sharing today. We talk a lot about fiber, and let's talk about some food options. Now, one of the things that we mention a lot is in our Healthy Heart Solution Kit. There's some really good benefits to keeping our heart healthy by eating a lot of fiber. What are some examples? What are some things that we should be eating, or what are some fibrous foods that you enjoy, Dr. Saunders?
Well, fruit and vegetables, any kind of fruit, any kind of vegetables. And it turns out that as research is done, the most important thing is not to have a certain kind of fiber. There isn't the perfect fiber for everyone. Fructo oligosaccharides are great, and they'll grow certain good bacteria, and they're wonderful. But if that's all you eat, then all you have is there's a narrow type of bacteria. Whereas if you have a lot of variety of fiber, you're growing a lot of different types of bacteria. So some people like psyllium seed, and psyllium seed husks have good kinds of fiber in them. They grow good kinds of bacteria, and they're great. But it's not the answer to everything. A variety of fiber is a good idea. So you should eat root vegetables like carrots and parsnips and jicama. And you should eat above ground vegetables that have a lot of woody fiber in them, like celery and lettuce and broccoli. And then you should also eat soluble fiber. A lot of fruit has soluble fiber in it. Soluble means it dissolves in water, that it's mixed in the water. It's not like the woody fiber that gets filtered out when you make juice. So juices actually have soluble fiber in them sometimes. Do you know what's really weird? When they make apple juice, if you get the fresh squeezed apple juice, it's got soluble fiber in it, pectins, for example. But when they make that really clear, perfect apple juice that's just a little bit yellow, and it's beautifully clear, they have like ultra filtered it, and there's very little fiber in it. So you pretty much lose all of it. Yeah, so apple juice, you're kind of lost with most of the fiber that way. Um, but fruit, vegetables, um, root vegetables are great. There's like in the fiber greens that we formulated for Barton Nutrition. We put several different kinds of fiber that are good kinds of fiber. So like a Jerusalem artichoke is a really good kind of fiber. Psyllium husk is a good kind of fiber. And there's mixtures and there's different kinds. So that's the key to fiber is variety.
Okay, and here is our fiber greens right here. If you go to bartonnutrition.com, you'll be able to see that. I'm going to click on our green apple here, just so that you can see the different fibers and all that kind of thing. Use code webinar25 if this is something of interest to you, and you can save 25%. Let's see. I know there were some other questions that came in here.
I was going to read, Dr. Saunders talks about the types of fiber. And so in this article, he breaks it down quite a lot. He lists 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different kinds of fiber, of soluble fiber. So pectin is from apples and other fruits, beta glucans from oats, inulin from chicory root, onions, and garlic. Fructan from wheat, onions, and garlic, chitin, which is found in mushrooms. So you can reference the article for these different kind of fibers. Oh, that didn't come out right. For different kind of soluble fibers, and what food items might contain those to keep the variety going is what he's talking about.
Yeah, mushrooms, I didn't mention that, but the chitin in mushrooms is really good for repairing your joints. Um, it's mushrooms are actually really good. There's things you can get from mushroom that you can't get from anything else.
Interesting.
Yeah, we're seeing speaking of mushrooms, lots of mushroom coffees or mushroom drinks. More and more coming out. It
Yeah.
used to just be like one type of mushroom, and now you can get these drinks that
Oh,
are multiple different types.
yeah, you can get mushroom everything now.
Yeah.
Can you get fiber from these mushroom drinks?
Yes. Yeah, well, you should, because they're generally just ground up powdered mushrooms. So yeah, That's they have the fiber in them.
So this article talks about the carnivore diet. Can you bring up the carnivore diet and how it relates to getting enough fiber, or if you don't need
Yeah,
it?
that's really interesting. As I was doing some research on bacteria in the intestines, um, I ran across this series of different studies that were done on bacteria in the intestines based on what people are eating. And they found certain types of bacteria grow with the fiber in fruits and vegetables, and then other kinds of bacteria grow if somebody's eating like a mostly meat diet. And then depending on what they're eating. But what was really interesting is that in one day is all it took for the change from one type of bacteria to another type of bacteria. If you changed your diet, let's say you were eating a totally vegan diet and you're eating beans and peas and lentils and brown rice and corn and broccoli and spinach, and that's all you're eating is all that fruits and vegetables. And then you change your diet to a carnivore diet and you're only eating meat, in one day, your bacteria completely switch around. It's so fast how that happens. And it makes sense, because they reproduce every hour. And depending on what food they have, they're going to grow the type of bacteria that live on that food. And so when you're eating a lot of meat, you're going to have proteins, things like collagen fibers, and it's still fiber that are going to go into your large intestine and grow that kind of bacteria that lives on protein. But here's the kicker, is that people who went on a carnivore diet from this totally vegan diet with a lot of different types of fiber, they go on a carnivore diet and they're just eating one thing, meat, and nothing else. Their variety of bacteria increased. They actually got more variety of bacteria. So, like, it's not clear. We're still like in our infancy as far as learning what really all these bacteria are doing, what we need, what we don't need, what are the good ones, what are the bad ones. Right now, the way it's done is they take stool from people and they look at what kind of bacteria they have, and then they ask them, "Are you okay? Do you have normal bowel movements and you have normal stool and do you have any problems? Like, do you have diverticulosis or diverticulitis or hemorrhoids or irritable bowel syndrome, any of those kind of things?" And then they characterize the types of bacteria according to symptoms that people have. Well, that the the bacteria that grow in your intestines are a fingerprint. They're unique to you. So it's kind of weird um, that you would have like a no fiber diet, no vegetable fiber diet, and you would have a broader spectrum of bacteria than eating this high fiber diet. It's just, there's so much we don't know.
Mhm.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Okay. Someone is asking, well, the discount code is webinar 25. That's one word, webinar 25. That'll save you 25%. But someone else was asking, what about resistant starch?
Okay. Resistant starch is wonderful. It's another kind of fiber and it's starch. So if you take potatoes or rice, and you boil them and you break down the fiber into starch, so that it's soft, and then you refrigerate it, the starch binds together with other starch, and it becomes what's called resistant starch. And what's resistant is you don't digest it very well. You actually do digest it somewhat, but like 30%. And so you don't digest it the same as when you first cooked it and it was hot. so you can take something that's really starchy and turn it into resistant starch, which is like fiber. And that goes down into your large intestine. And there are certain bacteria that just love that. That's and the lactobacillus bacteria, the bifidobacterium. And so resistant starch is actually a source of fiber that can be anti-inflammatory. So it's a good idea to like boil your rice, put it in the refrigerator, and then make fried rice the next day. That's what I do.
What about fucose? Fucose?
Fucose, yeah. Yeah, that's hard to get. And what's really cool is we human beings in our colons, normal colons, we make fucose for to grow certain bacteria. So when there's an insult, like you get diarrhea or something, you get a bad bacteria growing in your intestines, your colon um, lining, the cells that line your colon will start putting out this fucose. And what the fucose does is it grows certain bacteria. And these certain bacteria are anti-inflammatory bacteria like lactobacillus. And they grow very well. And then the other bacteria, the bad bacteria, start getting starved out, and they're taken over by this good bacteria. And so that brings balance back to the force, right? It brings balance back to this universe of bacteria in your colon. And it's made by your own body. Well, the odd thing is some people just don't make fucose very well. And the enzymes don't work very well. And so when they don't make fucose, they get diarrhea easily. They get inflammatory bowel diseases easily. They get irritable bowel syndrome easily. They get these inflammatory conditions from overgrowth of bad bacteria because they don't equilibrate very well. Some people they call themselves iron stomachs. They're like, I can eat anything. Like my wife and I, we go through southern Mexico and we eat at every taco stand that we can find. And we've never gotten sick and never gotten Montezuma's revenge. But some people do. And a lot of it is because of this fucose. Yeah, if your colon is really good at making fucose, then you get rid of the bad bacteria really easily, the newcomers that you don't want. But if you don't, then they can take over and they can grow and they can cause diarrhea and other problems. So um, there you can get fucose from really there's two sources. One is mushrooms, and that's why mushrooms have been considered a tonic for generations, thousands of years. Mushrooms have been used for that. But also seaweed. Seaweed is another source of fucose, and those are the only two really significant sources of fucose.
All right. Next question here. Oops. What about hard cider?
Hard cider.
Like,
Well, cider ideally should have some fiber in it. Hard cider means it's been fermented. So they take the sugar from the apples and they put yeast in it and ferment it, and that makes alcohol. And it should have yeast in it, but often it's filtered and there's probably nothing left in it of fiber.
Mary says, is it normal to get diarrhea after 3 days of fasting?
Um, I don't think that's normal. I've read a lot of books on fasting. My personal experience, my experience with my patients, is that diarrhea is not something that happens after 3 days of fasting. So if you have diarrhea, then ask the question why. Why is that happening? Is there something you've eaten? Is it or something you're not eating? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that would happen.
Selena wants to know how you feel about Ozempic. She said her doctor prescribed it to her, but I like prunes.
Okay, so Ozempic slows down the bowel, and people do get constipation from it. And so the prunes, yes, a lot of doctors will recommend, okay, if you're taking Ozempic, make sure you eat prunes so that you don't get constipation. Um, so and then you're going to get more fiber, and that's going to grow good bacteria, and so that's okay too. Actually, okay, so and is that what she meant by how do I feel about Ozempic, or do I think people should be taking it? Think of it this way. Um, if you use anything from the outside, if you're putting something into your body to effect a change in your body, then that's going to be something that is going to be needed forever. You know, what happened? You have to ask yourself the question, what happens when I stop? Well, then everything goes back to the way it was. And that's pretty much what the research has shown is everything goes back to the way it was when people were taking fen-phen to lose weight. As soon as they stopped, everything went back to the way it was, and they gained all the weight back, and they were miserable. So everybody stopped fen-phen. Oh, bad idea. Don't do that. Well, now the same kind of thing is happening uh, with Ozempic. Yeah, this works, and no one's thinking, wait a minute, what happens when I stop? And everything just goes back to the way it was, and you gain all the weight back. And plus, usually, I had a patient in my office yesterday, and she says she's tried everything to lose weight, and every time I lose weight, it all comes back with friends.
That's funny.
There are people who I follow or hear about who recommend low dose of GLP-1 for heart health, to reduce obesity or weight for a little bit. And they say there are a lot of benefits of doing low dose of this GLP-1, which is what I think is the main component of weight loss drugs like Ozempic and others.
Right. Right, and that's a real thing. That's actually real. The microdosing does have some effect. It doesn't have the effect of suppressing appetite, but it
Mm,
still has the effect of slowing down the bowel
mm,
and decreasing blood sugar. And let's see, there was three things that it's still slowing down the bowel, decreasing blood sugar, and there was one, burning fat. So the switch is more to fat burning. So yeah, people are doing this low dose, micro dosing of these Ozempic and Wegovy. But again, it's the same kind of issue. Think of it long term, and say, what happens when I stop? What happens when I'm not taking it anymore? Or am I going to take it the rest of my life? And that's pretty much what weight loss doctors are telling their patients. You're going to be on this for the rest of your life. And sometimes the side effects are intolerable. I've prescribed it 3 times. One of them, it helped. But she left the country and she went off it and gained the weight back. And then the second one, it helped, and she lost 10 pounds and actually kept it off. But she didn't like the side effects, so she stopped it. And then the third one, it didn't help at all. He didn't lose any weight at all. So, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've talked to people who've been on it for, 6 months and have lost, 50, 60 pounds. And they're very happy about that. Yeah, I think it's a thing. But again, think long term. Is this the way you want to live the rest of your life?
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Maya had said, do fermented foods reduce sugar?
Um, by themselves, not necessarily. The fact that they're fermented usually means the sugar's taken out of them. So people make um, their what's that tea called?
Kombucha.
Kombucha, and they make it with sugar. But then the sugar they ferment it. So when the sugar gets fermented, most of the sugar is used up. And so that's an example. There's still some sugar in there. So does it lower your blood sugar? Well, it might. But no, it doesn't by itself. Fermented things don't by themselves, like if you're eating fermented pickles or sauerkraut. Not necessarily.
Kimchi.
Kimchi.
Okay, Jill says, I just got over 48 hours of an intestinal issue, some diarrhea, and one episode of vomiting. The most pronounced symptom was severe stomach pain in the solar plexus region. Is that a symptom of the stomach flu, or could it be a gallbladder or pancreas?
Okay, gallbladder would usually be more on the right side. If it was right in the middle, that's a sign of a stomach. So that's called epigastric. Epi means on top of, gastric is stomach. So that the middle, like right between your ribs, that's the stomach. But there is one other thing. If you feel it there, like right there in the epigastric, and then you feel it in your back, like if it goes straight through to your back, then that's often a pancreas problem. And I actually had somebody recently with pancreatitis, and that's how he showed up. And everybody thought it might be gallstones or something, but it was the pancreas. But it sounds like if that's where your pain was, it's probably the stomach.
Okay, someone was wondering if we had addressed mushroom coffee. The only thing that we had said, there were benefits to mushrooms. And then we were just talking about how there's a lot of coffees now that have a lot of different mushrooms and probably not a bad thing, right?
Probably not. Probably not.
And Dr. Saunders, you're doing a great job of driving and staring at the phone. So I'm just kidding. He's not. He's not driving. He's not driving. Okay. All right. Well, this was good. We actually don't have any more questions right now. So, Dr. Saunders, go enjoy your trip. And thanks to your family for hanging out with us as well.
Awesome.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thanks for joining us today.